Nora woke up. She felt restful. She couldn't remember when last she had a blissful and dreamless sleep. She stretched and was startled as she bumped into something. Her phone, and she wondered what it was doing on the bed. Then the recollection of what happened the night before started rushing back into her mind. She sat up. He was the kind of man every girl would want to fall in love with. Rich, tall, and handsome. He also knew how to woo his women. Mama laughed at her own stupid thoughts. How could she be having romantic thoughts about a man who acted like he was a caveman? The man thought all women were his for the taking. Surely that kind of man could only represent trouble. She wasn't going to see him ever again. She thought as she glanced at her wall clock, exclaimed and jumped out of bed for a quick shower. Uche looked up from his reading. This had been his position since the early hours of the morning. He gave up the reading after accepting that he was not going to understand what the report was talking about. On Saturdays, he usually went into the office after spending an hour in his gym. This daily routine had helped him keep fit. He remembered Star and her mission. He began to worry about the stirrings in the Niger Delta and what it could do to his business. He hoped the government would do something, but it seemed as if everyone was waiting for the worst to happen. The youth were beginning to attack indigenous companies like his. He was going to speak to those at the helm of things, starting with the president. Though he hated he was going to do it, but he was not going to lose a penny over their negligence. He didn't really need an appointment to see the president, didn't meddle with politics, but as a businessman, he saw the wisdom in ensuring that favorable policies were put in place. A slight noise sounded at his door, and his housekeeper's very shy daughter came in, bearing his freshly squeezed orange juice. He told her to place it on the table. He wondered why the housekeeper always sent his daughter to his room first thing in the morning. He made a mental note to speak to her about it as he left the room. Just as he was coming downstairs, the housekeeper was opening the door for someone. He stopped, waiting to see who was being allowed into his house without him being informed. At the back of his mind, he prayed it was not Angela. Then he began to smile when he heard the British accent. Moments later he entered. His brother, though adopted, Chuck, 6'4", international footballer, born to a Nigerian mother and an American father. At least that was what he told everyone. The guy was as handsome as the devil and knew it. He was almost as rich as Uche because he had invested wisely by allowing Uche to take care of his fortune while he played. I hope Uju is not here, he asked in mock fear as he came forward to hug Uche. You are safe, Uche laughed. She should be waking up now beside Charles. They didn't laugh at that because Eva was their little sister. He too had felt betrayed when they found out Charles was taking more than sisterly interest. What are you doing back home? I thought you were playing next week. Nation Cup qualifier. We are playing Cote d'Ivoire and the score must be settled. Oh, I forgot. So you should be in camp. He laughed. Yes, tomorrow morning. I need to see my guys first. I couldn't make it to Eva's party, but you know how it is. Where is Stanley? In his house? Probably fornicating with my front desk girl. So how come you're the only one waking up alone? Or is Angela still lounging in bed? You couldn't be more wrong. I'm a changed man. They laughed and moved on. I called Stanley. He should be here soon. I thought we should sweat it out on the pitch. You guys are growing fat sitting around and doing nothing but making billions every day. Uche laughed. Why sweat for 90 minutes for billions when I can make them comfortably behind my desk? My sentiment exactly, a voice replied from the door. They turned to see Stanley. He was about 6'2", broadly built, and so handsome that he made most girls cry. If Charles was with them, they would have been complete. The world saw them as filthy rich young men who do nothing but play girls. Had they not dubbed them the Notorious Four? The four of them together were dangerous, or so Uche's mother thought. She had watched countless girls make fools of themselves over men who were just having a good time. Today, Charles was not with them, and none one thought of calling him. because they had not totally forgiven him. The four of them had grown up together, and Eva was a baby sister some of them didn't have. So it was a rude shock for them to discover that he was having not so sisterly relationship with her. I hope they don't suspend you for not going straight to camp. Camp doesn't start till tomorrow morning, Chuck said as the three of them strolled outside to show Chuck some few tricks in football. Much later, the three of them were lounging together by the poolside. The idle world of the rich, Chuck murmured. After the week I've had, I deserve this. I heard you're sleeping with front desk girl now, Stanley. I've always preferred them to those high-class girls you two are forever dating. At least I can expect her to give me some good home-cooked meals and have time for me. Why do you need her to cook? Did your cook quit? Uche asked, puzzled. I need a woman, not someone who'll be worrying about her fingernails or running off to America for some crazy idea, or worst, someone who is involved in a multi-billion merger and has no time for me. Be careful. Once a man starts reasoning like that, it becomes easy for one woman to trap him into marriage. Uche chorused, and they made a shuddering sound at the thought. I've come to realize that those who fear marriage the most are the ones who get shackled quickly and easily, Stanley replied. Uche, how is Star? Now that's the kind of girl a man who wants to stay unshackled should be thinking of. Away in Port Harcourt on business. My luck, said Chuck and looked at Uche. So are you still with Angela? I was never with her. You should have seen the goddess he brought to the party last night. I kept asking myself why I didn't see her first. Someone I know? Never, they laughed. Will I be meeting her before I leave? She's mine, bro, so wipe that smug look from your face. Chuck laughed and got up. How come you two are messing around with new girls and I don't get to meet them? Don't tell me you don't trust them. No girl can be trusted to behave herself, laughed Stanley. Not with you around, and gave him a push into the pool. We should go out tonight. There is this new place that just opened, and everybody is talking about it. A friend said, and Mma turned. Count me out. You never go out, Mma, so you wouldn't know, but I heard the place is really good. Mma paid little attention to her friend's idle chatter. They were young, rich and silly, and they did nothing but spend their father's money. She had come to know most of them as they came into her shop, and like always they sought her friendship. Say you will come with us, Mma, she heard one of her friends say. She turned to give them an apologetic smile. Mma, come on, say you will come. You will enjoy it. You will meet lots of interesting personalities. It was at the tip of her tongue to say no once more, but suddenly she thought against it. She worked too hard and deserved a break. She deserved to live and feel, even if it was for one night, like a carefree 26-year-old, just like her friends. And possibly this was a distraction she needed to stop thinking about Uche. He hadn't called her since the midnight call. She was so scared he wouldn't call her any longer. She couldn't believe it. It shouldn't matter to her whether he called or not. Had she not been looking for ways to put an end to the madness that was him? She turned to her friends. Hanging out with her friends was all she needed to put him out of her mind. Okay, I will go, she agreed. With her friends gone to prepare for the evening ahead, she went back to her studio to continue with her work. As usual, her work relaxed her. It was hours later that she stood up because she remembered the evening ahead. After much confusion in making up her mind, she settled for a silver bodycon gown that clung to her perfect curves. She looked at herself in the mirror. She was impressed. She nearly grabbed her car keys before she remembered her friends were picking her up. As if on cue, her doorbell rang and she left the bedroom. There is nothing terrific about this place, Uche commented, looking around. It's new, that's what makes it terrific, said Stanley, and winked at one of the girls sitting on a table beside them. I thought you said you are tired of high-class girls, Chuck commented, seeing his wink. One can't help it in this 21st century, he replied. I'm getting bored already, Uche said dryly. How can you possibly be bored? We just got here, Chuck said, perplexed. But only Uche knew how that was possible. But he refused to admit it. because somehow he was scared. He was fast losing interest in things he used to enjoy, all because of one woman. Mma and her friends entered. Mma took one look at the smoke-filled room and knew immediately she had made a mistake. But her friends became more excited by the loud music and smell of smoke. But she was already there. She couldn't turn back without appearing like a fool. Chuck was the first to see her. "Is she real?" He asked no one in particular. The others turned. Uche's breath caught in his throat. He had always known she was very beautiful, but tonight she looked like something from the glossy pages. "Does anyone know her?" Chuck asked with excitement. Uche laughed as he heard Chuck. Slowly he stood up, and Chuck looked at him. "Where are you going? I have dibs on this one." "You remembered I said something about a goddess?" Stanley asked, and Chuck nodded. Then he met Stanley's eyes as understanding dawned on him. "No, don't tell me she's the goddess he brought." Stanley began to laugh. Mma saw him approaching her table, and all her thoughts cleared from her mind. Her breath caught in her throat. She had thought he looked good in a suit, but he looked even sexier and very handsome in more casual clothes. She couldn't look away. She could only watch helplessly as excitement began to seep into her body. She wasn't aware of the excitement his approach had caused among her friends. So lost was she in his aura. "Oh my goodness, he's heading this way," one of her friends exclaimed and adjusted her posture. "I think he's heading right to our table." That caused another round of excitement. The excitement brought her back to earth, and she watched them amazed, and then with growing annoyance. No wonder the guy was so conceited. He was approaching her table with a knowing glint in his eyes. Mma wanted to run. She couldn't bring herself to do it. She took a deep breath and swallowed hard, trying to think of what to say to him, but she found her mind blank and bereft of all coherent thoughts. It was by miracle that she was able to answer him when he said hello. "What a surprise. I didn't know you came to places like this." He could have kicked himself for saying that. "Same goes for you, Uche. I hope you wouldn't mind joining my table." Mma smiled sweetly at him because she had the perfect excuse for turning him down. "I would have loved to, but I'm with my friends. It would be totally rude." Uche regarded her friends. "The invitation is for all of you. My table is not particularly empty." Mma panicked the instant she saw the footballer sitting on his table, and she knew her friends would definitely agree. Mma looked at Uche with anger. The man knew what he was doing. "So what do you say, ladies?" Within moments, she and her two friends had transferred to Uche's table. Introductions were made. She couldn't stand her friends' blatant flirtations any longer. She longed for escape. She longed for the peace and quiet of her home. She wished she never came out in the first place. She smiled as one of Uche's friends put a question to her. It was the one called Stanley. The guy was smooth and suave. "Uche told me you own a designer line." She smiled at him. "Yes, I do." "Looking for investors?" "Are you going to shut up or do you want me to do the honors?" Uche said to Stanley. Mma looked at Uche, surprised at the way he snapped at his friend. But Stanley seemed very amused by his angry outburst. He said nothing more but turned to his partner. No one was more surprised than Uche about his outburst. He had grown tired and too jealous of his friends ogling her. "You are not drinking. Your cup is still full." Mma didn't think he would notice. She didn't take alcohol socially or otherwise. Whenever she was at a place where she had no choice, she left her glass the way it was, hoping nobody would notice. "I don't drink," she said to him. "You don't look the type." "What type do I look like?" Uche smiled. "Your friends don't seem to share your belief, do they?" Mma knew that some of them had refilled their cups severally. "Different strokes, I guess." "Birds of the same feather," he answered. "I guess this is one time that saying doesn't apply." "You don't seem to be having a great time here. If I tell you this is not my favorite pastime, you will quote birds of the same feather again." "No, I wouldn't, sugar." Her breath caught in her throat at the endearment. She tried not to read too much into it. Men like Uche found the use of endearments very easy. What would you do then? He smiled. Mma looked at the smile suspiciously. He smiled like a trickster whose potential victim has succumbed to his charm. What do you say? We leave this place to another which will suit both of us better.
In the still of the night, I think of you. My heart beats with every thought of you. You're the one I can't